If we would have had a Bitcoin ETF here in this country, their Bitcoin trust in Canada, Barry Siebert's, would be parity. Hey folks, welcome back to another edition of the Crypto Byte. Monte, also known as Matt, depending on, if you're his mom or his girlfriend, and CJ and I are going to talk a little bit about crypto. These guys are the experts, but I have lots of questions and, as usual, lots of opinions, guys. Let's kick it off with regulation, because I think this is where the United States has really fallen flat on its face, because I had great hopes for Gary Gensler. This is a guy that comes to us appointed to be the head of the SEC, was a teacher at MIT, really does understand crypto, but apparently just couldn't get it through any kind of regulation that might have protected crypto exchanges, investors, and so forth. And I know this is like a hot potato. It goes from the CFTC, oh, it's your regulation, CJ, you have to take care of it, to Monte, oh, it's the SEC's hot potato, you have to regulate it. I mean, I think if they would have regulated it in the last year, we wouldn't have had the crypto winter that we've had to suffer through for the last 6 months. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of those major structural problems have not just been created because of like the DeFi 1.0 projects, but like the new, more centralized finance kind of hybrids, especially with Anchor and Terra. Obviously, that was basically the start of the entire meltdown. But I think if there was just more transparency around where the yield is coming from, whether these are legitimate loans, whether there's a little tokenization that's juicing the amount of yields, which obviously was an Anchor. So I don't know if Gary Gensler will do that. I mean, obviously now they have a massive invitation to go in and over-regulate, because these products were marketed as savings vehicles for retail customers. And I just think that the industry needs to be a little bit more self-policing in where the yield is actually coming from, because it's created a lot of destruction in its wake.
Well, Monte, when you look at like Sam Bankman-Fried, just for instance. So Sam, brilliant guy, physicist also from MIT. But he went over and was boots on the ground in Seoul, South Korea, because in Korea, Bitcoin was trading at a completely different price than the rest of the world. I mean, it was as much as $2,000 or $3,000 different. And so he had to have banking relationships there in order to exploit that and so forth. But he was taking on all the risk that you'd take on to be long Bitcoin in one country, short it in another country, even if it's fungible, as it is, completely fungible. But nonetheless, when you go through a VPN, and he wasn't, he was boots on the ground. But if you go through a VPN, you're bypassing some of the US regulation. There is this much US regulation, really. Yeah, they put up a lot of blocks. They won't approve a Bitcoin ETF, for instance. But we've got Barry Siebert, who's got, this Bitcoin trust, and it trades at a either huge premium a couple years ago or a huge discount to Bitcoin, and that's just too much. And the reason that that exists is the regulation, I think, Monte, isn't there doing the right thing to protect US citizens, to protect exchanges that operate here and so forth, brokers that operate here, and I think they should address that. What do you think with these arbitrage situations? I talked about Sam Bankman-Fried at the beginning with Korea, but now it's against Barry Siebert and Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And I think because of the fact that the retail trader has been burned to a degree that we haven't seen in forever, like CJ said, that opens the doors to the regulators to come in and take some action. And I think you're exactly right. Part of this is because US investors don't have appropriate vehicles to ETFs or just Bitcoin in general, and are forced to resort to things like Anchor to earn yield, or just forced to participate in like GBTC arbitrage. And these are risky trades that are passed off as sure things, which they are certainly not, as we found out in the last 6 months. So I think if there's ever been a time for the US regulators to step in, it's now. The door has been swung wide open because retail traders have been burned on a massive scale. So I think we need to see more clear-cut vehicles, like CJ said, transparency is key.
Yeah.
And right now we just don't have that in any vehicle for US-based traders.
Hopefully Gary's watching this and he's deciding, yep, we're going to put on a little regulation here, because it would protect people and make this asset class a better, safer place to trade. And if you elect to go through a VPN to trade 100-to-1 leverage offshore, that's on you. But what happens here in this country is a different story.
Yeah, the APRs were always suspiciously high to a degree, but like I don't think the proper action would be to come in and over-regulate and to try to kill innovation as well. I think it's the issue here is purely transparency.
Yeah.
Because people are going to do it anyways. If DeFi exists, people are going to do it. They're going to try to use future vehicles like algo stable coins to earn yield and things like that. I think the key of this is just educating the retail investor and giving them more transparency and making the providers of that yield or the projects, reaching out to them, maybe nudging them and saying, hey, could we get a little bit more legality and what you guys are doing here. But I think that would be a much better approach than just saying none of you guys can participate in DeFi. It's over, pack your bags.
Yeah, well, I agree. Well, where are you guys seeing the best opportunities right now?
For me, I think because of everything that we just discussed, I think a lot of the opportunity has moved away from these trendy layer one trades, things like Phantom, and more towards, ETH, which is a tried and true blockchain, has been through various bear markets and, is seeing some massive perpetual futures volume. Actually, for one of the first times in a very long time, it actually just surpassed Bitcoin in terms of perpetual futures volume. So I think just as a result of the fact that people got burned using Terra, people, really got, 2021 was the year of the trendy layer one. We saw, massive performance from Luna, from AVAX, Solana, Phantom. But now that that's kind of going away, and because of the collapse of Terra, I think we're seeing a migration back towards ETH, back towards the original DeFi protocols. Also things like Binance Smart Chain as well. Binance Coin actually, looking very strong. I know CJ's been
it made
pounding the table.
It made a new all-time high versus BTC. Very seldom will an altcoin ever do that, especially during a bearish market environment. But before we get too far ahead about opportunities and things, I want to ask you guys a question that I think the audience all wants to know, which is, what do you guys think? Is the bottom in? Do we still have a little bit more to go? It's early to say. Overall, what do you guys think for the next few weeks?
Well, I'd love to get John's take on this first because, I think a lot of it right now is contingent on the equity markets. And, you're an equity market expert. And, obviously, Bitcoin was created in 2008, right? In the wake of a major financial crisis. We've only really seen positive markets since Bitcoin has been around and, since CJ and I have been trading it. So if we are slipping into something that we haven't seen in the last decade, then we could be in for something that, is unexpected for Bitcoin and we can't really predict. So I'd love to get your thoughts on where we're headed from equities and where you think Bitcoin may be headed.
You already hit one of them, Yao, over there at Binance. The real exchanges, and by real I mean really the big ones, FTX and Binance, of course. I think those are going to benefit the same way Bitcoin and Ethereum benefit from people saying, I'm going to shun some of these so-called altcoins or shit coins, and I'm going to go for tried and true and real stuff. And when you see that, just like you both have said, Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin like crazy. And it has, just dramatically since Bitcoin hit that whatever, I think somebody said it was into the 17,000s. I bought it a little bit at 18.8 because our mutual friend Alex was like pounding the table for it there. He says, look at this candle. This is good. We should be buying it here. And so I bought a little down there. And I think that even though Bitcoin recovered from there on up to 24 and now is bouncing back and forth from 21 to 24, I think Ethereum's performance has just been lights out compared to that. From 900 and change all the way back up to 1500 is a huge move for Ethereum. So I would say that a lot of the trouble in the world, a lot of the trouble in crypto has pushed people into the major coins away from the altcoins. And I think that's a trend that's going to continue. I think we're going to continue to see Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I think Ethereum continues to outperform, just like Monty was saying with the perpetual futures. That's a pretty good sign that people want Ethereum. And then Binance Coin, FTX's coin, and so forth. I think those are really going to be the more solid plays. And then people will still speculate, obviously. They love buying thousandth of a cent coins and seeing them go to 3 cents. And who doesn't? But I mean, I think they'll be putting a smaller amount of their cash into those than they were willing to put in last year.
Yeah, definitely agree. The unusual thing with like Solana, or I should say with FTX, is that, with Binance you have a clear coin. It's BNB, BSC, whereas with FTX you have like Solana, you have Serum, you have FTT. So I still think that Solana is probably more in the realm of SBF's coin. But regardless, for the next couple weeks here, I mean, it's tough to say whether a bottom is in or not, still with a lot of macro uncertainty and things of that sort. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, after recent price action following the FOMC meeting, it has gotten a little bit more optimistic to see a reaction rally continue here. Mm-hmm. It just is, the question is, how high does it go in the interim? And what are the interesting meta plays that could be worth a shot in the interim?
Do you have some good meta plays, both of you?
Yeah, well, speaking to meta plays, I mean, we've been talking a lot about ETH, talking a lot about how retail traders are likely going to move away from these trendy layer ones and move back to the basics, right? And in the past, we've actually seen ETH perform well, and ETH, people participate in DeFi during periods of bear markets. So even if we consolidate here, I still think ETH could potentially, see some speculation. And while we're talking about meta plays, looking at DeFi on top of Ethereum, you have things like Lido, things like Optimism that I think could massively benefit, especially when you consider that we have a merge coming up in October. That could be a massive catalyst for price action. So I think that that's part of the reason why ETH is outperforming. Also, like you said, people moving away from these trendy L1s. But really, I think that there's massive opportunity in things like Lido and Optimism. Already, we're seeing them move tremendously on the back of these moves from ETH, but I think that it's really just the beginning and kind of indicative of the fact that people are migrating back to ETH DeFi.
I also think that metagame that's leading the market actually is a reflection of the sophistication of the market participants who are remaining. Because it's not, well, I guess we do have things like Ethereum Classic going up quite a bit, but the ETH merge plays. Going into the merge, going to have ETH truly move from an inflationary currency to a deflationary currency, and so there's a lot of really interesting opportunity as long as ETH keeps going up for some of these assets. I think I'm in complete agreement with you that it's Lido and it's Optimism. Lido is a really interesting staking protocol that provides liquid staking for DeFi, and that's going to be really impactful for ETH 2.0 when staking rates double from like 5 to 10% or maybe even 12%. So I think that there's not a whole lot of use case in the actual token yet. It's just a governance token. Nonetheless, if that protocol continues to grow into something like a $3 billion project like Uniswap and becomes a pillar of the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem, then as long as ETH keeps going up, I think Lido keeps going up and could potentially even hit $3 or $4. I mean, that could be a stretch, but we'll see how much legs this reaction rally's got into it. The other one that's really interesting is Optimism, which is a L2 for ETH, which you basically deposit your Ethereum for a small fee into this L2, and then virtually no gas fees that you have to worry about. So, you're obviously seeing a lot of speculation on the back of that metagame, so we'll see how long it can continue for.
Yeah, and I think if the last year has proved anything, it's that people do want to generate yield, and even if they don't know where it's coming from, they'll still participate in it. But I think that that's one thing that will tremendously benefit ETH, post merge. And we've talked a lot about the merge, right? But if you switching from 5.5% to 10% and understanding how ETH works, it is transparent. That yield, you can understand how it's generated by looking at the blockchain. It's not, generated by loan sharking and lending out, crypto to. Or it's more consistently generated, and I think that will appeal to retail traders and institutions alike. So I think when we get post merge, I think we'll see strong participation in Ethereum DeFi, lots of people staking their ETH to earn that yield, and as a result, lots of speculation in the ETH DeFi umbrella. So I definitely think that is the meta play here, and it seems like that's where, like you said, CJ, the remaining participants in this market are speculating at the time being.
Well, that's going to do it for us today, folks. CJ, Monte, great stuff. Loved hearing it, and I'm sure the audience did as well. Folks, remember, you can always join us for the Crypto Byte here at Market Rebellion.